Good morning. This is Christy Matthews with Amanda Ashton Booth and our special guest, Jed Kobernusz. He's an exercise physiologist and movement coach, and we're so excited to have him here today. So welcome to another episode of the Fibropreneurs and sharing our thoughts from the front. And boy, we have some things to share with you today. So we're very excited about today's broadcast. And if you're joining in today, would you please let us know where you're joining in from? Just drop that in the chat. That would be great. And also, if you have any questions for Jed, this is a great time to start putting them in the chat because we want to make sure that we can answer all of your questions, as many as possible, before the end of today's broadcast. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road, shall we? Amanda, how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. I was a bit foggy this morning, and that's why we're starting with the fibrofog moment of the week.
Yes.
Well, it's coming up my mother's birthday, and she might be watching right now. And I sent her a little package, and she received the package today. I had a feeling that's why. Well, when I first woke up, I looked at my phone. You're not supposed to do that automatically when you wake up, granted, but I did. It's a habit that I need to break. But I looked at my phone, and I had seen a message from her saying thank you, so I was like, okay, I'll answer it in a little while, as you do. But then about half an hour later, I went back to find the message, and I was like, it's not there. Has she retracted the message? So I messaged her, and I was like, okay, so did you send me a message this morning? Either that, or I'm completely losing my marbles, or Facebook's just really playing games. So she tagged me in a message that she put on my wall. It wasn't in private chat at all. It was a notification. So I just completely.
All right.
As you do.
That's not so bad. Not so bad. Well, Jed, welcome to the show. Really great to have you here. Hi, Helen. Great to have you. Welcome. Jed, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you. Folks, this is going to be great. We've had some offline discussions with Jed, and he's got a story that he's going to share here with you. And, he understands what pain is all about too. And he's dedicated his life to helping people find ways to move a little bit better so that they can keep their flexibility and, just keep moving because, when we're moving, we're not hurting as much. So he does understand pain, and this is why he's going to be very good to chat with today because he understands where you're coming from, and I think he'll have some very helpful tips for you to leave with after today's show. So without further ado, Jed, welcome, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me to be a guest on your show. Your show is awesome. I actually, this week, I was kind of putting out some things for a new little obstacle course that I'm creating. But while I was doing that, I was listening to your guys' shows, the episodes, and you two are hilarious. That's awesome. So I appreciate just an opportunity to come and to speak my passion. But so I'm an exercise physiologist. I study movement. I study how the body is affected with that movement. And I'm just fascinated by it. I love to figure out how things work, and movement and everything in between is just, I've been fascinated with it. So how did I get into exercise physiology? It was credited a lot towards my parents. My mom and dad probably wouldn't take any credit, but I grew up as an overweight child. So I know what it feels like as a child to be, not exactly in the in crowd, to fit in. I got poked and prodded at in the locker room. It wasn't pleasant, to be real honest, it sucked, right? Like,
yeah. Right.
it after a while I just started fighting, and that sucked. So somebody called me fat, I just punched him in the face, like that.
Mm.
So learned that real fast, and then my dad really was like, let's get you a job. I didn't know flathead from Phillips head screwdriver, so that was pretty cool. Learned a lot about tools and stuff because I worked at a camper dealership. And the reason I bring that up, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but worked at a camper dealership for a while, worked at some trailer dealerships. I went from 230 pounds to about 150
Wow.
within that summer, just because it was moving more and eating on more of a structure. I played a lot of video games and ate a lot of not so good food. So that started, between middle school and high school, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. And then past that, I just started becoming an athlete. Still not great in school, but it didn't matter, right? Like once you start moving more, it just kind of correlates with feeling better. And I wasn't an A student, but I wasn't failing, so it was somewhere in between. So fast forward to college, went to college. And I like to do two things in college. I liked to party and I like to lift weights, right? So couldn't really make a career out of partying. I mean, some people have, right?
Right.
Now that social media is what it is today. But the other thing was lifting weights. And I really wanted to find what that meant to make a career out of it. And I have. The last 10 years have been a huge eye-opening experience just in the way of movement itself. Just because, let's go back to that camper dealership and any other physically demanding job that I've had, it comes back to the pain that I experience today. So I didn't know what body mechanics was. I didn't know there was proper lifting mechanics. I didn't know anything about ergonomics. You bend with your lift with your legs and all that fun stuff that we know we don't really apply to our daily life. And now I have some chronic pain, not some, but just it hurts when you do nothing and it hurts when you do something. So I don't necessarily have fibromyalgia, but it's the chronic pain's always there. Some of it can be radiating, some of it can just be stabbing and turning it, like it just, that, like it can relate. Pain is so subjective. Pain is so objective. I mean, in anywhere in between. So I feel like I watched one of your episodes, dismissive was one. You said some doctors are very dismissive, especially with fibromyalgia, and you get to decide. What I tell all of my clients, patients, whoever I'm working with, let pain be your guide. Like, that's it. Like, I can't tell you if you're in pain. How's that physically?
There you are.
Okay. Somebody was calling. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So, so that's what it is pain is your guide to everything. Like, move yourself. Some people will say no pain, no gain. Then you throw a little bit extra on there for me and say you're insane, right? Because pain is the body's way of speaking to you.
Right.
So it's back to say, hey, that's not right. Let's not play like that anymore. Let's not move like that anymore. So while there's a little bit of pain with muscle soreness and fatigue and lactic acid buildup and all of that fun stuff, that can still hurt, right? Like,
oh, sure.
Fibromyalgia, weird. I'm sure you guys have covered this somewhere, but it literally means pain within the muscle, the ligaments, and the joints. I mean, like, that's it. Like, you're always in pain some way and somehow. So how to mitigate that within your daily life is a big deal.
Yeah, it sure is. And you have some problems with your back as well, don't you? You have some spinal injuries.
Yeah, I would say nothing diagnosed, right? Well, not say, but like I have never been to a doctor, MRI, or you know, any official diagnosis. But I mean, just the way it feels, just the way I move, just the way I limit my own self, I would say something's going on back there. Bulge disc, possibly herniated
Right.
disc.
Yeah.
I'm just a firm believer that surgery, not necessarily should, but surgery, I'm not even gonna say should, I'm gonna say is. Surgery is a last option, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know with fibromyalgia, people with fibromyalgia, a lot of people at the base of the spine end up having a lot of problems right down at the base.
right.
The amount of people that I've spoken to have got the same problem, and when they're sitting and it's in agony, and when you're lying in bed and you're trying to move from side to side, there's no way that you can lie. That's very common.
Right. Are you talking about the tailbone, Amanda?
Yeah, and
Yes.
I know that from the tailbone and up to maybe around the waist.
Yeah.
So like L4, L5, S1.
Right. Yeah, the tailbone is just kind of, I've had that problem as well, and it's been checked out, and it just flares up for whatever reason. It hasn't been injured or anything like that. It's just the wildest thing. So
I've spoken to a lot of people that have had that it starts to crumble. There's a bit in the base of the spine that starts to crumble. There's been a lot of people that I've spoken to. I know my auntie has that problem. She has fibromyalgia as well.
yeah. Mary was saying here, she just joined us. She says getting up in the morning and trying to straighten up is excruciating, which is, common for most people with fibromyalgia. It's just as soon as you put your foot on the ground, it's like, oh my gosh, gravity is just taking hold, and now, gonna take on the day.
Yeah, Mary's my mother.
Hi, Mary. Nice to meet you. So, go ahead, Jed. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. So a great suggestion for waking up in the morning would be to hydrate as soon as you get up. Keep like a bottle of water or a glass of water and just down it. And that just starts to lubricate those joints, starts to increase circulation right away.
And that doesn't mean coffee, Mom. Okay?
Yeah,
Hydrate.
this stuff, right? Water. Water. Yeah.
This stuff. The clear stuff.
That's a great point. Great point. Because we're always dehydrated when we wake up, aren't we?
Yeah. A bit. Yeah. That's where your body does most of the work, is in your sleep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not even most of the work. We're using calories right now by moving, by breathing, by having our heart beat, by digesting our food. But at night is when recovery happens, is when our brain gets to go to sleep a little bit, right, and kind of rewire some things that we learned from our day. So it's working pretty hard. So when you wake up, it makes sense. You're like, whoa, okay, right. Why does it hurt so much? Get some water in right away.
So Jed, can you speak a little bit about how important sleep is to recovery and ultimately in overall reduction of pain?
Yeah, so, I mean, resting metabolic rate and even just your REM cycle of sleep. Well, so let me back that up. How do you even get to that point, right? As in chronic pain or fibromyalgia. I mean, I have a certain sequence that I've trained, right? So I train myself to do the same thing every night, and I've been doing it maybe about 4 years now. I don't know how everybody feels about meditation, but I do it. It's just, the Tibetan definition of meditation is to become familiar with, right? So it's to come familiar with yourself. So I do that an hour before I go to bed, and it really helps just decrease all the static that we have up here and down here. So that's just a good preparation is something you do, and even if you have to write it down, you might have a sleeping checklist, right? And that's okay.
Good idea.
And it doesn't have to get into the habit of, I know, Amanda, I think you were saying you had your phone ready when you woke up. We've probably how many studies on not having your phone.
We just lost you there.
Oh,
there you are.
Uh-oh.
You're back.
So as far as like not having your phone before you go to bed, right? So keep that far away. And sometimes even the alarm clock, right? So the alarm clock has the numbers. That's pretty, so turn that away. Then at night, your body goes through so many physiological steps that you have to get your brain waves from beta down into your, if you can get to a nice delta wave, then you'd be sad, or even super gamma. Sorry, that's just, I'm fascinated with Dr. Joe Dispenza. If anybody knows, go check him out.
We like him too.
Yes, absolutely.
I've learned so much from just watching him and buying his books and going through courses, and like, it's amazing what this actually has the power to do. But I know it's kind of physiological and scientific at the same time, because that's what he does. But
he'll come back. Hey, I know there's some people here in the chat that knows about Dr. Joe. How many here in the chat, if you are familiar with Dr. Joe, put a 1 in the chat, would you? Hey, Jed, if you can hear us,
you're stalled.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's hopped off. I must say that meditation, guys, it takes time. I have quite a busy brain, and somebody with fibromyalgia, their brain is always quite busy and scattered, so it takes time. Even I haven't mastered it yet. It does take time, and make sure you're in a quiet place as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's critical, that you've got to find a way, even if you can, there's so many different ways to meditate. And just as Jed was saying, I'm waiting for Jed here to jump back on. But even if, over time, you're going to go ahead and progress into your meditation. But if you could just start with concentrating on your breathing, that will help tremendously to help you relax. Just, think about breathe in, breathe out, and just keep that going. Hey, Jed, welcome back.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's all in the breathing. The breathing is important, because that's what helps clear everything.
Good old technology, right?
That's okay. We've got a lot going on here, too. Hi, Betty.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Don't worry.
So, Jed, what does it mean when you said trying is sad and doing is better?
I like that that you bring that up, because I think so many people see that as like, boy, what an a-hole, right? Like, he just doesn't get it. So what I mean by that is keep trying, right? But there comes a certain point in threshold that eventually, if you stop, if you just like say you're going to keep trying and trying and trying, you're going to give up, right? Recognizing the change that happens from trying to doing. Because I try and work out every day. If I keep saying that to myself and I don't do it, it's never going to happen. But if you keep trying and you are working out, but you don't consider, well, I just went for a walk today. Like, that's not even working out. No, that is, right? You're doing it. So it's a mindset thing that you change in your own head to say, even an intentional push-up off the ground can be working out. But trying in your own head, that's sad. It's sad for yourself.
Just ask you, Jed, what would you say is the best amount of walking to do at a time? And I say this, guys, because I was really silly the other day, and I done over 3 hours worth of walking, and yeah, I was pretty dead the next day.
Right.
Yeah.
So the American College of Sports Medicine, so what I'm actually studying to get this certified exercise physiologist cert, and the research, right? The research shows that 10 minutes minimum has a benefit. But let's dig into that. Let's say in your own mind, man, 10 minutes. Nope. I'm not able to walk from my couch to the mailbox, right? Let's say that's a 3-minute walk. Then intentionally walk halfway and then turn around and come back.
Okay.
Any benefit is as good as you perceive it as. Like interrupting patterns, that is a huge one. One push-up, one squat, one lunge, right? And I know these sounds like, this is crazy painful, right? You're like, oh my gosh, a push-up, it's going to send me through the roof. But what about
squats.
What's that?
I love squats.
Yeah, and they don't have to be full squats. They can be shallow squats, and that might be considered your full squat, right? Like it doesn't have to be crazy amount of movement. It's, from what I've learned, right, from what Dr. Joe has said, is it's up here. Like if you can just start imagining yourself doing a full squat, then you're going to try it, and then you're going to be able to do it. That's the trying is sad, doing is better. It's converting into your own mindset.
Jed, you mentioned something, and maybe some people here on in the audience can relate. I've had quite a few surgeries, unfortunately, and just a side note, if you could try to avoid them, it's all better because generally they lead more. But one thing that you mentioned about, it's the recovery process. After surgery, quite a few times I would take a walk down the street and I would only be able to make it maybe halfway. And then I'd have to turn around and come back because my body was just so fatigued from having the surgery. And then the next day I was able to go a little bit further and then turn around and come back. And what you just said there made me think about, when you're recovering from the surgery, you have to get up and walk around, and you are going to gain more endurance and so forth. And so I would imagine the same thing occurs too. If you haven't been moving, and the only way to be able to start moving is to start moving a little bit, like just as if you had surgery. Whether you have surgery or not, hey, let me tell you, if you have surgery, you are going to move. They were going to make you move. So that's just the way it is.
Surgery causes a sense of trauma in the body as well, though, because I've mentioned this before. Trauma can actually trigger fibromyalgia, and surgery could be one of the triggers.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a trauma to the body.
Absolutely. So, Jed, you were talking, you didn't get into this, how you ended up, when you started your job at age 12. Mm-hmm. And tell us that this is a great story about what your dad had you do. Just how did you get to work? I think this is fun.
Yeah, so you made me ride my bike. So the long story of what it is short is like I got a job where he worked because I thought I could slack off. Like that was like, I would thought I was so smart. I would thought I was just intelligent as heck, right? I was like, I'm just going to get a job and then I'm going to go to work and dad's going to cover for me. And I'm going to have to do anything and can make money. And no, that was clearly not the case. So I had to ride my bike, right? And that was the big deal. That was the biggest deal. I think that's why I lost some weight too, was like, I got more active because of that. But like, I did also get smart too. And I bought a moped. That's part of the story that people don't really know, but you still had to pedal the thing, right? Like,
yeah.
But it was, I had to ride that bike and I'm like, are you kidding me? So once I started working and, and making some money, I'm like, I'm just going to go buy, my own little thing so I can get to work. Cause riding that bike was just I love to ride my bike, but not cause I had to, You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of that, starting the move thing again. I mean, you had to start moving, and your vehicle was the bike. A lot of times our vehicle is our legs. We just need to start moving and using them. So, and over time, you built up an endurance and maybe a little stubbornness and got a moped, but you still
Right. Still had to work, right? Still had to work to get to that point. Like, it showed me how to generate income, right? Like, it was massive. It showed me how to earn something, right? If I wanted something, I had to earn it. And it showed me just a life lesson that just because I have a plan doesn't mean it's always going to go like that. I mean, because I wanted to go to work and just slack off. And the foreman clearly did not let me slack off. I got yelled at a lot because I didn't know what I was doing at all. I had no clue between I didn't know a Phillips head from a flathead. And I thanked him for that just last year. Like, I really had a good long conversation with him saying, hey, I really thank you for getting after me. And he goes, you're welcome. And not like, hey, no problem. He was like, you're welcome, because I knew you could handle it. And I'm like, boy, at such a young age, how does a person know another person can handle that kind of a push, So I'm just grateful that he kept on me, because that's what really put in my work ethic. That's why I can work 18 hours a day and not even fret about it, but it's up here.
Yeah, that's true. A desire. Yeah, there is no what is it? The saying is, either you do or you do not. There is no try.
Right.
Yeah. Star Wars. I can't remember the name of the character, but
Yoda, probably.
The little wrinkly guy.
Yoda. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yoda.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. What does WOD mean?
So that stands for workout of the day. So I create WODs, and so workouts of the day. And this is just kind of something I stumbled upon within myself and my kids, right? So if you go to my first WOD video, my son is small, like he's just a little baby, and my daughter is probably around 2, and they're screaming the entire time in the video. But I was like, you know what? I'm throwing it out there because this is life, right? Like everything that I do, I don't really edit much for my videos because to be real honest, I'm lazy with it. Like, I don't really think I need to edit because then it takes away the authenticity of who I am. So the workouts themselves are just ones that there's some days where I don't fit in a workout. So I was like, well, I need to solve that problem. And I did. So then I was just started creating and throw it out there. And for some reason, people are doing them, like it has science behind it where it's, legs this day, upper body this day. There's modifications. There's, everything that I believe in, that I've learned about, and I go through it. Like, that's the biggest thing for me is empathy. Like, if I don't go through it, I really don't feel like I can talk on it. Like,
right.
Anybody who doesn't know what pain is, or chronic pain is, or fibromyalgia, any of those symptoms, how do they even understand, right? Like, if you don't have empathy, you're shot right away. Like, well, why can't you just, start moving and run? Maybe just go for a run. Okay, well, first of all, like, running requires a lot of impact, right? And what would that do for chronic pain or for fibromyalgia? It would take our already high pain and it would send us through the roof. We wouldn't be moving for days.
Yes, that's true. Very true.
And it's normally the people that are closer to you. I want to hit upon this point. It's normally the people that are closer to you, because I know there's been a lot of people with fibromyalgia that I've been speaking to of late, and they do stress the fact of family are a nightmare. And they don't understand and they don't get it, because those are the people you want to understand the most.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are closer to you. I'll tell you something, my dad was the world's worst. There's no compassion whatsoever. But that's just, you have to learn to either, cut it off, whether that's worth sticking around, or whether you just let them carry on. Your body.
Right.
You mentioned something earlier, and I think this is good, but many of our viewers suffer from, chronic pain, fatigue, brain fog, digestive issues, and just a bunch of yuck, just yuck. And due to the painful flare-ups, especially after activity like what you're talking about, you go on a longer walk than you expect. Maybe you took that bike ride because you felt good, and then later on you go, why did I do that? How can you mentioned water first thing in the morning, and I think that's a great tip. What else can people do or you recommend that can help lessen the intensity of a flare-up?
So I always think of circulation, right?
Okay.
So what helps our body the most is, so I ask myself a lot of questions, and sorry if I'm just kind of rambling, but this is what how I operate.
Notes as you're talking.
Yeah. So what is it that promotes healing within our body? So that's circulation. And how do you increase circulation? So water would be one. And then it's also, you got to get your heart, right? You got to get your heart pumping in a way that it has oxygenated blood to those systems. So how do you increase your heart rate without increasing impact? That would be a really big question for pain, just any kind of pain. I found this one move, and I don't know how well it would go for everybody, but it's called a full body extension. So we all know about burpees. Does everybody, do you think you know what a burpee is?
I do.
I can't stand them.
Crazy amount of impact, right? So I found this move. It's called a full body extension where, I don't know, do you think you can see it? Because that would be kind of cool to show it. I don't know. Should I try it?
Sure.
Yeah,
Why
go
not? Yeah, definitely.
A full body extension is, let's adjust this real quick. Why not?
Yeah. There you go.
You don't have to go like crazy deep into a squat, but just come down, and then you're going to put your arms back here, and then you're going to come way up into extension, right? So you're going to kind of do something like this, and then you're going to try that for as long as you can, basically, for as long as you can, and get a little winded. So what that does is you're using all of your body, every single muscle. And I know it might sound frightening at first because, oh my gosh, something new. What if it flares? What if I just completely set myself back? Try one today, right? One full body extension today. And if it goes well, stick with one for a while. Then if it goes well, try two. I think what happens is we get too all or none-ish, right? Like we get, now I did one, great, I'm going to try 5 today. Why would you times it by 5, right? Too fast. People who try to increase really fast, they go down.
Right.
So like the flight.
I just hit upon something. A lot of people have in their head that, 10 minutes, it isn't a lot, or just doing that is not a lot, it's not going to work in body. Now, can I tell everybody on this show, when I did that walk the other day, places the following day and the day after, even now, places in my body that you wouldn't expect from just walking, you will find sometimes that doing like a long run, you might do a lot more better just going for a 20-minute walk or something like that. And because it does, although you might not think it, it works the whole body.
Absolutely.
Oh, it does.
Absolutely. And the advantage of, if you wanted to do a combination of your walking and this full body extension, what you're getting is cardiovascular activity, right? Cardiovascular exercise. Mm-hmm. And then you're getting some strength, endurance, balance, some coordination, some posture, all within that one movement. So if you go for maybe a 5-minute walk and then maybe one full body extension today, and then try it again tomorrow, because that movement itself you won't overtrain that movement until you're like, okay, I have done 100 full body extensions today for like 30 days in a row. And then you're probably ready for something else, right? Like you're probably going to go and Google, like, what else can I be doing for exercise? You know, but at that point, you've already kind of shifted out of fear and into inspiration, basically.
Excellent. I think that's a great tip. I'm going to start doing that one too. You know, and staying moving is important, but here's, you know, like what Amanda was talking about, taking a long walk. It was a beautiful day, beautiful setting, very easy to set yourself up for taking a longer walk than maybe you normally would. But then when that happens, sometimes, and people will just stop exercising entirely because the flare-up is so bad. And so there must be some long-term ramifications for not exercising in general, and especially with the chronic disorder. Can you touch upon what are those long-term ramifications of not moving, especially these short, you know, start and stop type of things, you know, walk a couple days and don't walk for 3 weeks? I mean,
so your short-term effects is those are hard because those, you know, you have your peaks and valleys of pain, basically.
Right.
Just because you're trying to condition your body, but your body just won't. It doesn't seem to want to listen. But you know, that's where you keep trying. So that's short term. But long term, your muscle is made of what? Right? What is your muscle ultimately? What is that energy? Do you guys know?
Electric.
It's protein.
Protein energy. Okay.
Yep. So,
of course, I knew that. I had a fibro moment.
Okay, right, of course.
Huh?
So if you don't use your muscle, if you don't use your body, you lose it, right? If you don't practice, it goes away.
Okay.
So what does your muscle do for the bones?
Oh, it supports them.
Supports. That's good. What another word?
Protects.
There it is. That's it. Sorry, I point over here because I got a screen over here. Sorry. Yes. Protect. Protect is it. So if you don't have the skeletal muscle to protect the skeleton and you fall and you're already in pain, right? Fibromyalgia, you're always in pain. Now you fall and your bones become more brittle, then it breaks.
That's why when somebody's got an eating disorder or something like that and they get really slim, it can cause a lot of problems with their bones.
Yeah. Osteoporosis, osteoarthritis. I mean, everything within the bones, male, female, doesn't matter. It's all the same. Males more prevalent in females, but it doesn't matter. Muscle's muscle, and your body is what it is. And if you don't have the skeletal muscle to protect it, your bones, they're gonna take the brunt of it. Your body's gonna use the fat that you have. It's gonna start using the muscle that you have, then it's gonna start going into the bones, because there's where does the energy come from, right? Like you need energy for your heart to beat. It means burning calories, using calories. Where does you're using calories right now? I don't like to say burn. Like a lot of people, I've really changed my mindset on burn, because burn has a negative impact. Like, do you want to burn your body? I don't. That's just me. Like, this is just kind of a newfound thing where I'm like, I need to use energy and not burn energy. Burning, like, I don't want to take a flame and like burn, you know? That would
positive self-talk.
Exactly. So I use energy. I use calories, not burn calories. It just has such a negative, like I just keep imagining like a little lighter right here that I'm burning my hand.
You just triggered a thought there for me, as well. With movement, you're actually creating energy as well.
That's exactly right. So when you're moving and creating this energy, it's called the ATP, right? It's adenotriphosphate. So there's 3 different ways that you make ATP. I won't get too far into the specifics and scientific of what that means, but if you don't have the proper physiology, meaning like you're eating the right foods, that the episode previous to this one, I think you guys were talking about foods you eat and foods to avoid, and that was perfect. You guys are spot on. Avoid sugar, you know, you guys, I'm very impressed with this show. Like, you guys are, you're rocking with it. But anyway, so if you don't put in some foods in here that help your body create that energy, then your body's going to take it from somewhere, and it's usually from the places you don't want it to, like your muscles and your bones.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, it's true. So those people that are having difficulty walking, riding the bike, what kind of exercise would you recommend? I think you touched on it just a little bit, but is there anything else that you'd recommend besides, you know, maybe some of the squats and the full body extension that you talked about, just to get people moving?
Absolutely. So I think the other piece of like changing a movement pattern is just the thought of movement itself. So, and I do this a lot because I don't know. Anyway, so it's like, do you have to move to actually find benefit? Because sometimes just getting up off the couch hurts, right? Literally, it just hurts to stand up. So
Sitting here right now is hurting.
So I think we forget to actually to like flex our muscles, like an isometric contraction, which means to just squeeze and hold, right? Like even just that creates energy, and there's some benefit through that. Bruce Lee, look at that dude. Everybody knows who Bruce Lee is, right? I mean,
Sure.
like, if you don't, you're probably living underneath a rock, or you know, or you might be, 5 years old and you don't know how to Google yet. But they don't know who Bruce Lee is. But anyway, he was a big person on isometric contractions, and it's just learning how to squeeze and not overdo, because I think even chronic pain and fibromyalgia, you forget how to, like if you're sitting on the couch here, I'll just kind of move this down. So this is some not great posture, and we're probably sitting on the couch doing one of the, right?
That's me.
Your head forward. Yeah.
That's me.
And we're probably on our phone doing something like this.
Right.
That's me.
So take that and practice just sitting up and flexing your core. You can hear it in my voice where I'm not flexing my core very much, and then I am, because now I'm using my diaphragm to just flex. And that has value. There's total value in those movements itself. I don't think many people think like that. Like as I have a 20-minute commute to and from work, so 40 minutes a day. I shoot some video while I'm in the car, but on the way home,
hysterical too.
it's just random, right? Complete random.
They're great. I love it.
Thank you. But I practice on the way home, just squeezing some muscles and remembering, how to do that. And that's conditioning, right? Like,
right.
That's what I would recommend for everybody. That's like an active way to become familiar with your body. Like triceps, as I'm walking, I work in this big plant. It's about 2 million square feet. I mean, it's massive, right? So as I'm walking through the plant, I flex my tricep. Like, if you know how to flex your tricep, there's actually direct correlations that if you have a strong tricep, your brain activity is probably fairly high. And that's a good thing, right? So flexing your tricep, like take your hand underneath your elbow and then push down from your elbow to your hand. Right there is how you activate that muscle.
It's almost like hyperextending your elbow, right?
That's exactly right. You're trying to make your elbow completely come out the top of your arm, and that's your tricep muscle.
Okay, that's great.
Playing around with your body, if that doesn't sound too weird, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, what are you doing? I don't know. I'm just playing around.
Weird.
Exactly. You got the remote way out here. You're changing the channel. Yeah.
Right. No, that's great. In fact, yeah, I have this weakness on the left side, and it definitely shows just by doing that motion. Gosh, I didn't even realize that.
My mum's just said, I do this, it sends tiny shock type waves through me.
So in a good way or not good way? Because that could be taken both ways.
Is that in pain, Mum?
Right. That's what I would ask.
Because if it's pain, stop doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Your body's telling you, don't do that.
Exactly.
Can you talk about that, Jed? I mean, I think that's a good point. So, because we get different kinds of sensations, and some are those I think we have to push through, and some are those are ones that say that we need to stop.
So what comes to mind right away is if you're out here, this is a different plane of motion to whereas if you're straight ahead.
Okay.
So if you're out here, there's something called, right, frontal plane. And then if you're right out here, it divides into like the sagittal plane to go left and right.
Okay.
So that's something that a person could really be aware of is change your plane of motion. See if that helps. And it could just be a lot of into the shoulder. So something like that, when you flex your tricep, an assisting muscle is definitely some of the deltoids, some of the teres minor and all that fun stuff. So there could be some triggers within the shoulder itself. So then just kind of coming over your head, doing some nice light movement could help open those pathways up a little bit. And why does that happen? Those triggers, right? Triggers are just that toxic chemical in there that just sits, and it just wants to fester. It's kind of like a little, what's a piece of wood? A sliver, right? It's kind of like a little sliver that just won't come out. It just festers, right? Same thing in our pain, in our trigger points.
Does it go swimming? Do you go swimming?
I do. I love swimming. It feels so good.
It does. It's refreshing.
Like I put on my life jacket and I just kind of float. Like that. That's in itself is just like, oh, that's where I almost have no pain is in the pool. Like where I just sit there.
It's less resistance and pressure.
Exactly. You're so much more buoyant in the water, and it takes gravity's less, and you're just like, oh. And then I'm in a lake, so I kind of fear that, some fish is going to fingers.
Water has a calming agent as well. It's quite calming.
Right. Well, like the point of your guys' show, or the title of your show, right?
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Now, you were just talking about, bobbing around in the water, just kind of moving along. We talked a little bit about rebounding. Would that be a form of rebounding? And for those who don't know what it is, can you share with us what that is and how beneficial it is for you?
Yeah. So for me, rebounding definitely just kind of resets my. I'm having a
fibro fog moment.
The endocrine system, basically, it resets my, what's the word I'm looking for? You said it the other day.
Oh, the lymphatic system?
There you go, lymphatic system. There, it resets my lymphatic system. Thank you, Christy. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome.
And just the bouncing itself. Now, bouncing has some high impact if you're not like on the trampoline, like you and I talked before. But you could do it in water. Like if you're in a very shallow pool, you can kind of just go up and down. It's a lot less impact. So what that does, there's actually psychologists use it to calm the static in your body. I call it static. It's more or less just your central nervous system just needs to be centered and balanced, basically. But for me personally, I love to jump rope. Like I jump a lot of rope, and it hurts my back, but I take the good with the bad at that point.
Right.
I kind of go against what I say is let pain be your guide. It more or less hurts in my knee because I blew out my knee, but that's neither here nor there. But so then the jumping itself, I just feel like I'm a new person when I'm done because it's very centering. But a person could try it in a pool. You could almost, trying to think of another way, if you don't, let's say you don't have the trampoline, because not everybody does. You could use like a counter, and then just kind of just a light up and down. You wouldn't even have to like jump because that requires impact, but just a light pulsing gets you to kind of like, open up a little bit. You could use the counter, and the reason I say the counter because balance can kind of sometimes be an issue. If you're bouncing around, watch out, right? If you're in the middle of a room, you don't want to fall over.
No.
The little indoor trampolines, the exercise trampolines, they're really cheap to pick up. I've got one here. I use that as well.
Yeah. Well, and that alone is some concentric and eccentric firing of the muscles, which leads into muscle strengthening. So, like, you may not find that to be a crazy amount of exercise, but you're still doing it, right? Like, that still counts.
You can be watching telly and just bouncing away.
Right. Exactly.
Well, that's flexing your feet. You're moving your ankles. That's, I imagine, engaging your calf muscles, the entire leg. So, yeah, there's benefit.
Also, another piece of apparatus. I'll let Jed say whether I'm correct or not in giving this advice. A yoga ball. If you're wanting to do squats, you can do squats and have the yoga ball support you behind you.
Yep. So that's good support. It's just if a person is ready for the imbalance, some of the imbalances that come with it, that would be the hard part. It's really, it gets you to, for proprioception as far as like those balance pieces themselves. The other thing is, if you didn't have that, just put your back up against the wall.
Okay.
Do like a wall squat itself. And you can
I get more energy by doing a little thing on the ball that my friend Katie taught me. Is Tony Robbins, when he comes on the stage, he goes
right. Yep.
Well, sitting on the yoga ball, bouncing up and down, doing that, it creates energy.
Yes. So sitting on it and bouncing, that could be the same way as rebounding too. One thing that I would recommend those is have something to brace on, right? So like, be ready to brace just in case the balance isn't there. That can happen,
I have like this thing that holds it in place. It's like a circle thing. Actually,
wheels. Oh no, it's just a base, right?
Yeah.
Those are
the ball there to stop it going everywhere, and you think it's behind you, sit back down, and it's gone.
Right. Another thing you can do is put sand in the ball.
Oh.
Yeah, that stabilizes it quite a bit. Put sand in, air it up a little bit, put some sand in there, and then finish airing it up.
Oh, that's a great idea. Huh.
Never thought of that. Thanks.
Yeah, right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, as a little kid, we were always told, go out and stretch before we start, maybe a sporting event or something like that. And then as we've gotten older, it said, well, maybe you shouldn't stretch. Maybe you just start off with a walk and let your body warm up overall. What's the right or the wrong way of doing that? Should there be some sort of a warm up, or should you just kind of just move the whole body and let it warm up naturally?
So studies, right? So I look at everything as far as what it shows and what our trends are doing, and something like that changes a lot. But physiologically speaking, if you go cold, right? If you just all start to do a static stretch, which is just a stretch that you just hold, right? So you take your finger and you go like this, and then you just bend it, and you're cold. Just like taking a piece of plastic. This pen is plastic, and if I were to bend it right now while it's cold, it's going to break.
Ooh, yeah.
So give yourself maybe 5 minutes, maybe I would say 10 minutes of some kind of movement, or whatever you feel as warming up. Like as soon as you feel that you're body temperature is elevated, your breath is a little bit gone. However long it takes to get to that point, then if you wanted to do some stretching, go for it. Because then what that does, pretend I have like a little a blowtorch right here, and I'm going to heat this pen up, and then it becomes what? A little bit elastic, right? The elasticity comes in, and now I can stretch it out, and then I probably able to pull it, and probably wouldn't be able to put it back in place because it's plastic, but our muscles would go back into place, right?
Okay.
So that's what I think of a warm up. You kind of have to get moving first before you want to take that muscle and stretch it out. There are a lot of studies that say do it, don't, and depending on what you're doing is a lot of, like, if you're going to go outside and chop wood, definitely maybe go for a walk, just like a 2-minute walk real quick, and maybe do some arm circles, do something above your head. But dynamic stretching is a heck of a lot better than static. Dynamic is you want to be, like, if I were going to stretch, that's what the arm circles are for, because I'm moving and kind of elongating the muscle at the same time.
Okay. Great point.
Yeah.
Thanks for clearing that up. Do you recommend any kind of supplementation?
Only when needed. Like, the word supplement itself, you supplement something that you either can't have because autoimmune, right? If you have autoimmune deficiencies, you're going to have to supplement. But if it's generally just to say, I don't have time, the coach in me says you're going to make time. But if it's right away when you really need the extra help, where you want to make those solid foundational changes, supplement it for now, but it's a supplement for what food provides.
Right.
That's just my opinion, but that's how I live my life. Like, if I were going to depend on getting all of my protein from a supplement, then I'm just going to buy the supplement. It's almost cheaper to go to the store and or even raise some of the stuff in a garden, or have chickens at home, or get some eggs there, whatever it be, right? Like, food is ultimately where you want to get the nutrients from.
Right. We were just discussing this yesterday, actually.
And supplements, from what you can correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes we're buying supplements and we're not absorbing them because we haven't, put the proper food into our bodies to start building up those enzymes and things so that we can absorb that stuff. So we could be wasting our money on buying supplements that are not doing us any bit of good, where, our body wants food, and real food. Right.
Well, and some of them don't have the correct dosage for your body. You wouldn't know what that is unless you've had, the proper testing for it. Some of them aren't an active form or an inactive form. Like, you just don't know unless you would go to a specialist. I mean, and do you really need it? My opinion is no, right? Unless there's an autoimmune. I mean, those are then you'd need to go to a specialist for sure. A dietitian that specializes in holistic health, that's what I would recommend. Because just a regular dietitian, no offense to any of them by any means, but they're just going to say, track your food log and here's a meal plan. Well, what's going to happen when you go off of that meal plan? 10 days are up. Now what do I do? You're going to go back to what you just did before.
I don't want to bash dietitians either, but I'm going to.
Yeah.
I've had a couple, and especially coming out of surgery, and what they do is many times they hand you these printouts, and what do they have on there? They have labels from the Dairy Association or some sort of other association that's affiliated with, or they reference the federal government, and I look at that stuff like, that's just crazy. I don't think that stuff, and you're handing me handouts with it. I don't think that's really giving very good nutritional advice, in my opinion.
And I have the argument with the doctor over the vitamin D and the dosage, and going to look at a little book, their doctor's book that they're supposed to go by to keep them covered. Apparently 800 IUs of vitamin D when you're deficient is enough. And it's really not. Even double that's still not enough.
Right. Well, and
yeah.
I mean, my dad had open heart surgery, and a lot of open hearts, and at least in his case, is lifestyle, right? So like, and I love my dad to death. Like I'm not bashing him, but the reason I say this is because the dietitian, they went, I think, twice to the dietitian, and they provided no value. It was, okay, low sodium diet, and
Right.
and here are some ideas, or here's a meal plan for you to try to follow. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, educate, right? Let's get a little bit more value in this 15-minute session that you have, because they're cram packed full of, cardiac patients, and they got to get their numbers and their quota. So the insurance will, anyway, so we can go on about that forever, but yeah.
Hear that? The
You
same
need to remember
sentiment.
to cover the disclaimer in this show, by the way, guys. I just want to hit upon that.
We'll cover that in a minute. So Net was just mentioning that your doctors recommended a diet pill, but you refused. So how do you feel about that, Net? Are you making any progress without the diet pill? Kind of curious about it. And, we should disclose everything that we're talking about here, folks. Amanda and I definitely are not medical professionals. Jed has had training in the area that he's speaking about. But of course, you should always go to your doctor, and you and your doctor are the ones who make the final decisions in whatever course of action you're going to take for your body. So it overrules what we say. Check it out with your doctor first. And then if your doctor agrees, great. But remember, it's you and your doctor. You guys are a team. And so that's what you guys decide. And then what we have to say.
I mean, we're talking about like us and how we've coped and things like that. So each person's different. So you might have something that's different from what we have, and you have to get that covered by the doctor. Right. So that's really important.
Excellent. Net says refuse to take those diet pills and working out with Jed's WODs. Work out on the day. Excellent.
Yeah.
Hey, Commander. Thanks for joining us. So we're getting here towards the end of our broadcast. And Jed, how can first of all, you have any closing thoughts? And then if you'd let our viewers know how to get a hold of you. You're really going to want to follow Jed. His morning drives are awesome. His, what he calls his rambles.
My talk therapy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Talk therapy is awesome. So he's got some great advice there. So please, some thoughts and definitely how to get a hold of you.
Sure. Closing thoughts, I would say, first and foremost, let pain be your guide. Like, that is literally your connection to your body. And if you don't have any pain, well, awesome, right? Like, more power to you. But listen to it when it does. If you're chronically in pain, fibromyalgia, chronic pain, male, female, really hone in and start to get to know your own self and know your movement patterns. As soon as you go unconscious and stop thinking about what you're doing, find a way to either anchor or catch that, say it out loud, change. Dr. Joe Dispenza would say change, say it out loud, like change. Then that kind of wakes your body up. And forgive, right? Forgive yourself. Don't be so hard on any kind of things that you don't do, right? Or can't do. Anything you can't do today doesn't mean you're not going to be able to do it tomorrow. Like, we all, like, it's probably been said a million times already, but we all have 24 hours in a day, and working on ourselves is where it all begins. It all starts right in here. That's it. So if you can block anything outside and just start here, you got it. That's where it all begins.
Excellent.
And then where to find me is my website. It's just my first name, last name.com. So jedkobernusz.com. and an email, YGT. I say you got this a lot, so that's where YGT comes from.
Yeah.
So YGT@jedkobernusz.com. Shoot me an email. I love to just talk with people. Like people are what are my oxygen. Like that's it. Like if I could just talk all day with people about what's going on in their life, I love to listen, because a lot of that can come out in really becoming aware of what you say. So
I'm totally with you there.
Yes. Well, Jed, thank you so much. It's great having you here, and I'm sure that there will be some questions coming in after people see the live on the replay, and so I'm sure you'll be watching the feed too. So if they have any questions there, would you mind dropping some answers for them?
Oh, absolutely.
That would be great.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I just appreciate anybody listening any more than 20 seconds of my voice. So yeah.
Now, what's your Facebook page? There's some great stuff there too as well.
It's just so facebook.com/Jed Kobernusz.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So it's Jed Kobernusz.
Yeah.
Kobernusz.
Spot on. Yes.
Okay. All right. Cool. Man, you got any close? Oh, go ahead, Jed.
Good work. Keep up the good work. I'm impressed. You guys are like.
Thank you so much.
Way up here. You're awesome. I love it.
So, well, we're going to close out our show. Amanda, you have any closing thoughts?
No, I think I butted in all the way through with my thoughts. So
it's okay.
That was awesome.
So, all right. Well, again, thanks everybody for joining us. Jed, thank you very much. Amanda, awesome. So you all have a great day, and we'll see you on the next show. Okay, bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.